Just imagine if you had an extra 3 hours every single day. Stick around because I'm going to give you 5 simple habits that have allowed me to get back my time and focus on the tasks that move my business forward as a solo entrepreneur. The first habit is called the Big Three. The reality is that there are only 3 or 4 things that really move the business forward as a solo entrepreneur. And finding out what those 3 or 4 things can be a little difficult sometimes. And without even knowing it, you might actually be working on the wrong things and not actually moving your business forward. So there is the Pareto principle, which says that 80% of the results come from 20% of the things that you do. And this can be applied all across the board, and in particular in the world of business. Really, about 80% of your results come from 20%, which is about 3 or 4 or 5 things that you can do every single day. However, if we're not careful as solo entrepreneurs, we'll find ourselves spending an enormous amount of time on secondary tasks that don't actually move the needle and will actually cause you to feel like you're doing busy work, but your business is actually not growing. So really, one of the things that's changed the game for me is that I've now started to narrow down what I call the Big Three, which are my biggest 3 things that I can do in order to grow my coaching business. And I can even apply the same concepts to this very YouTube channel and have a big 3 things that drive the YouTube channel and drive growth to the YouTube channel. So I'll give you an example with this very YouTube channel. My big 3 goals is to get 1,000 subscribers and to get 4,000 watch hours and to appear on 12 podcasts in the next 12 months. So once I have identified these big 3, now I can actually reverse engineer exactly what I need to do to accomplish these 3 things that are going to grow my YouTube channel. To accomplish the 4,000 watch time hours, I need to also keep posting 1 or 2 videos a week, and then I need to host 1 live stream every week to accumulate those hours. And then finally, to accomplish the 12 podcasts in 12 months, I need to network with at least 1 person in my niche every other week in order to get on their podcasts. So you can really see how effective this is once you've identified the 3 or 4 or 5 big things that drive your business or that drive your goals. And if you really hone in and focus on those 3 things, you're going to make a lot of progress. So once you've determined your big 3, number 2 is what I call the big 1. So there's actually a column article done by MIT that actually says that neurological science has proven that the human brain cannot actually effectively focus on 2 things at the same time. So applying this concept into these big 3 is, once you narrow down those big 3 things that are going to drive your business forward and you have those in front of you every single day, take that big 3 and now narrow it down to what I call the big 1. So from my own experience, actually, I have discovered that when I write down the 3 things that I'm going to focus on today that are going to drive my business forward, I actually really only get through 1, maybe 2 of those 3. And that 3rd point will roll over to the next day. So this is why it's important to identify, out of those 3, the number 1 thing that you must do today in order to drive your business. So habit number 3 is managing your secondary tasks. The funny thing as humans is that we actually tend to spend most of our day on tasks that don't actually drive our business. And that's because these tasks that I call secondary tasks that we focus on actually feel easier, and you have surprisingly less resistance to those things, and you're more inclined to actually complete those secondary tasks. And it makes us feel like we've had such a busy day, but really in reality, we haven't accomplished those big things that we need to focus on. So when you get to the end of the day, you actually feel like you've been very, very busy. But when you look back at your business and see just how far you've come, it doesn't feel like you've made that much progress, because the things that you've worked on, yes, they felt easy. They felt like you're accomplishing a lot of things, but they weren't moving the business forward. Secondary tasks like cleaning the garage and mowing the grass and picking up the dry cleaning, actually, those are things that, yes, we want to do throughout our day and we feel like we need to do, but when we do those things at the expense of those primary things that drive your business forward, then you're gonna get to the end of the day, end of the week, and feel like you're not making that much progress in your business, but you also feel like you're spending a lot of time just doing things. So this is why it's really important to distinguish between the two and focus on those big three and narrow it down to that big one, so that you spend more time on the primary tasks and less time on secondary tasks. And the funny thing is, for some reason, when we engage in our primary tasks, our big three, we feel like we're facing a lot of resistance. Sometimes it's actually hard to sit down and do those three big things, even though you know that they're going to drive the business forward. And it's much easier to do the secondary tasks and make us feel like we've had such a busy day, but in reality, the business didn't improve, the business didn't get better. So when you make your list of the big three, also make a list of all your secondary tasks so you know exactly what drives the business forward and exactly what you can get done when you have time. Habit number 4 is time blocking. Time blocking is actually a very popular thing, and most of you are probably familiar with it, but one thing that I would like to note on time blocking is if you just use time blocking alone and just block your calendar and don't identify those big three and don't identify those secondary tasks, then you're more inclined to not really accomplish much during those times that you've blocked. And if something else better comes up, chances are you're gonna move that time slot to another day or another time, and you're gonna keep pushing it back, pushing it back, pushing it back. And at the end of the day, your business is not gonna grow as much as you want to. So what I actually advocate for and what's been very effective for me is what I call strategically time blocking, meaning that the blocks of time that I put on my calendar are very intentional, and I know exactly what I'm going to be working on in those blocks. I know that if I'm going to block my time between 8:30 in the morning till 9:30 in the morning, I'm going to be sitting down at my desk with my computer open and a notebook and a pen, and I'm going to be writing ideas for a YouTube video, and I'm going to be outlining my script for a YouTube video. So I know intentionally what I'm going to be doing during those times, and it's not just something generic or something broad that when I sit down then it's time to figure it out. When you just put a generic blank time slot on your calendar and you say at this particular time I'm going to work on the business, in your mind it's actually not a priority. So if something better comes along, you're going to move that time. You're not going to sit down and work on that business. So that's why it's very important to narrow down those big three and strategically time block them into your calendar and make them non-negotiable. So habit number 4 is actually a tough one for a high achiever like me, and that is to embrace the concept of good enough. So seeking perfection in everything that I do, for someone who's a high achiever like me, I've actually come to the realization that it's a time waster and a time killer. Aiming for perfection actually costs time, money, bandwidth, energy, all of those things. So I have had to really do some self-reflection and really start to understand that it's okay if something is not perfect, and that embracing the concept of something being good enough to put out there is okay. So coming from a project management background like I do, there is a reason why in the world of project management, they use the concept of a minimum viable product, an MVP. A minimum viable product, or MVP, is a product with enough features to attract early customers and validate a product idea early in the product development cycle. In industries such as software, the minimum viable product can help the product team receive feedback as quickly as possible to iterate and to improve the product. So taking this project management concept of minimum viable product and applying that to our big three means that working on your big three tasks or your big one tasks over and over and over again until it's super, super perfect means that you're gonna waste a lot of time in your business. And in order to really drive the business forward, you're going to have to do those tasks to the best of your ability and be okay with an acceptable level of quality to where you can say, yes, I can put this out into the world and then I can make it better based on feedback, or the next time I do something similar, I'm gonna iterate and make it even better. To truly see progress with my business and really all my other goals, I had to get comfortable with the concept of good enough and the concept of incrementally getting better, one step at a time. Nothing is ever perfect the first time. So I encourage you to take these 5 habits, read over them, meditate on them, and really absorb these 5 habits and apply them in your business, apply them in your goals, apply them in your personal lives, and really see yourself take off and see just how much you can accomplish when you do just these 5 simple things. Like the video if you enjoyed it, make sure to subscribe to be notified for my future content. And if you want to learn the 5 characteristics of a successful entrepreneur, watch this video right here.